Hey everybody, welcome back to One Hard Thing a Day. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Carolyn. And today we're going to do a video discussing the seven worst habits for your brain.
So the first one that we're going to talk about is too much sitting. A lot of the times, depending on our job, if you work in an office, you can spend a lot of time sitting down, driving back and forth from work, you're sitting, and then we get home and we sit at our computers to do more work or to play a game, or we sit and watch TV. And so all of that sitting doesn't allow our body to move blood. Walking around helps us to pump oxygen through our bodies, gets our bodies moving, gets blood pumping, gets our heart active. And so studies have shown a lot that too much sitting can cause a lot of negative effects on our brain and our body. So it's always
Yeah.
good to get up and start moving.
Well, and Dylan, I've noticed that you're really, really good at this. So, like when I do therapy clients, I do 11 hours straight. I don't have a break built in. So, like,
Yeah.
if I'm not managing that, that time of in between clients, I can literally just sit for 11 hours straight. I noticed that if I check in with you at work, a lot of times, like during that check in, you're outside walking.
Yeah. I don't schedule more than three clients, or I guess four clients in a row. I won't work more than 3 hours straight before I can get up and move. And usually, even if I have 5 minutes between clients, I try to get up and walk to the bathroom or step outside for a moment, walk back in. Um, for me, it's paramount. I need it to ground myself and stay focused.
Yeah, well, no, I've been trying to move in between sessions more often, and yesterday, getting back from the holidays, around the 3 o'clock, I was really starting like, oh, how am I going to make it through the rest of my day? And yeah, I stood up and I was just doing squats and jumping jacks and just walking around my office. Again, I only had a few minutes, but it was impressive to me to see how big of a difference that made. Um, and what's interesting about the too much sitting is like that movement and making sure you're getting that oxygenated blood flow to your brain can actually reduce the risk of dementia. And then obviously inactivity is linked to obesity. And yeah, and so it's really interesting, especially where we did like the forest bathing with the 7 Japanese laziness techniques, like how important that intentional body movement is for our health. The second thing that's bad for your brain is not enough brain exercise. So the first one is moving our physical body, and then the second one is really focusing on strengthening your brain. Examples of this, like this is not necessarily a hard thing. It says reading, playing games with family, listening to music, dancing, taking up new hobbies. It says woodworking, bird watching, stargazing, all sharpen your thinking skills. And so it's interesting that they call it brain exercise, but like stargazing, just looking at the stars, can be a form of exercising your brain, or playing games with family or dancing in your kitchen. What are some of the things that you enjoy doing to kind of exercise your brain?
I mean, I think a lot of those things on that list, I was actually thinking about the things that I do that I wouldn't consider brain exercise because the list was it was pretty extensive. And so I was like, okay, when am I not working my brain? And I would say it's like when I'm watching TV or I'm just like mindlessly scrolling on my phone. And then I stop doing that activity. And sometimes I feel brain dead at the end of it. Or
Yeah.
I don't feel as connected or as aware. I feel foggy headed.
Yeah, interesting. No, and it's interesting how frequently we turn to that, like where our phones are in our hands all the time. Like anytime there's a little bit of discomfort or boredom, like that's in between my clients. That's one habit I've had, right? It's like, oh, okay, I need to like recharge. And instead of walking or moving my body, I'll like scroll Instagram, or, you
Yeah.
know, watch a stupid something, or watching 5 minutes of Netflix instead of doing things that actually like refresh and engage my brain.
Well, what works for you? What engages your brain?
I don't know. I do a lot of schoolwork. Um, what's really interesting is, yeah, sometimes I'm trying to like engage my brain in quiet ways. And so I've been trying to do more slow activities. So I love that it gave the example of like stargazing. So lately I've been trying to do things like paint by number or diamond art. Because like I exercise my brain a lot writing my dissertation. That takes a lot of extreme focus and a lot of effort. And sometimes my brain gets tired. And because my brain is tired, then I'm like, now I'm gonna go zone out in front of a screen. And so I'm realizing that my brain needs more exercise. It's like low
Mm,
intensity. And so
mm.
yeah, more creative outlet. Playing songs on the piano or diamond art or paint by number have been some of my favorite go-tos. I also really enjoy a good puzzle every now and again.
Yeah, those are good
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to be more intentional with some of those low intensity activities that I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could think of a lot of, reading a book, or I like playing chess and things like that, but they all take energy, and being at work takes a lot of energy, like mental energy. And so
Yeah.
usually I'm pretty tired. Like I don't want to do something like mentally active, but finding those low intensity activities, I like that idea. I'm gonna try
Yeah.
that.
Okay. Awesome.
Well, the next habit that we're going to talk about is inadequate sleep. And this one, I think I've talked about in other videos. I am so bad at getting adequate sleep for a myriad of reasons. Just my own bad habits, and then having little kids wake me up constantly. Uh, but this is a really important aspect of our lives, is getting enough sleep. So often when a client comes in with mild or moderate anxiety or depression, one of the first things I'm asking about is sleep. Sleep, diet, and exercise.
Yep.
And usually it can be a problem in that, where where some of that anxiety and depression stems from.
Well, I love the example this article gave because it's like most of us prioritize and really focus on plugging in our cell phones at night,
Hmm.
right? It's like this stress, like, gotta plug the cell phone in so it's charged and ready to go in the morning because it's got to get me through the whole day. So we put a lot of effort into our cell phone, making sure that it's charged, but we're not doing that same thing for ourselves. I have to have sleep to function. Like my brain doesn't work as well. My mood is not as great. It
Yeah.
increases depression and anxiety for me. So I've always been pretty good at prioritizing sleep. And for whatever reason, if my body's tired, my body will sleep. So like I was even as a college student, if my friends were like, let's go to a 9:30 movie, if my body was tired, I would be there in like this loud action movie asleep in the movie theater.
Yeah.
So like if there's a slow, like a down activity and my body's tired, my body sleeps. um but yeah, even now, like if I have to wake up in the middle of the night with one of the kids, um I will prioritize taking a nap over pretty much anything. Like if I'm tired, I'll be like, the laundry can wait, schoolwork can wait, whatever can wait. I need to go take a nap.
Mm.
Um, because it's that important to me. One thing I'm realizing I've not done a very good job at is what they call sleep hygiene. That
Yeah.
wasn't something that I was really taught or encouraged when I was younger growing up. But sleep hygiene is pretty much like that routine of like preparing yourself for sleep. So it's like have a drink of water, brush your teeth, like, you know, listen to relaxing music and then go to bed, kind of having, yeah, just like a routine and a process of like winding down activities. I'm like go 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 go, and then I jump into bed and turn on a show, and I just like fall asleep with a show playing next to me on my phone. And I'm like, well, that's probably not the healthiest sleep hygiene routine. So you are not good at like consistently going to bed. Do you feel like you have a good like bedtime routine, a sleep hygiene pattern or habit?
I think I used to not have a hard time sleeping, but
Oh,
in
interesting.
recent years I've lost some of that routine, and I don't sleep as well.
What was your routine before?
I didn't have the phone by my bed, and so I would get into pajamas, I'd brush my teeth, wash my face, and then I would climb into bed. And it was simple, like it wasn't anything extravagant. But then like my head would hit the pillow and I'd be asleep quick. Like I never had
Interesting.
problems falling asleep.
Huh.
Where now I'm getting the kids to bed, and then finally we have a couple hours to ourselves. So I'm usually hanging out with my wife, and then we go up to the bed, and yeah, I pull out my phone and I watch a show till I fall asleep or something like that. And it's just it definitely affects my sleep in a negative way. So building that sleep hygiene, building that routine, making it almost a ritual, because it's that important, I think would make a really big difference, at least in my sleep. That
Interesting. So
30,
yeah,
talk
I've
about
decided I need
30
to like,
before.
oh yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, I've decided I need to improve my my sleep hygiene a little bit, to see if I can increase the quality of
Mhm.
my sleep. Again, I prioritize sleep really well. Um, but am I missing out on like a really good charge and reset um in that sleep? I feel like that inadequate sleep for me is tied to the next concept, which is stressing too much. Again, I notice a huge correlation between the amount of sleep I've had versus how much I stress and my ability to like um keep things in perspective and like be more methodical. If I don't
Yeah.
have enough sleep, then it's like this frantic, like I gotta go, 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 go.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. How do you feel like your relationship with stressing too much is?
It comes in waves. I think sometimes I can do really well at managing my stress and, taking things a day at a time. And then other times I get caught up in my head and, you know, they're two different points, that stressing too much and sleep. But I kind of what you were saying, they're so tied together. I think that's true because
Yeah.
I do find at times where I'm more tired, that stress creeps in a lot quicker.
Well, and I think the concept of stress is interesting. There's actually two types of stress. There's eustress, and then there's stress.
Mm,
And the way I kind of describe it is like eustress is when we're operating in that window of tolerance, right? And so like we can put pressure on our mind or our body and our emotions, and it can be engaging a more stress-like state. But if we're in that window of tolerance and that stress is actually healthy, it's when we fall out of that window of tolerance, either below or above, that we enter what so I define them by eustress and distress, where we go into
mm,
distress. And then it says like stress like that is poison to the brain. And so I feel like sometimes it's really difficult because like that feeling of stress, um, like it's going to be the same feeling, right? Like it can amp up, and we can be right at below that line of window of tolerance where we're still like we're feeling high amounts of stress, but it's healthy stress, and it's
yeah.
not a lot. Like finding that line for ourselves personally of knowing when we're still in healthy stress versus distress, I think is really important. I've been trying to work on that a lot personally. Um, yeah, I'm good at pushing myself out of that window of tolerance and then operating in a place of distress, which is like poison. Like you feel like garbage. And so yeah,
Well, I like, this article, it lays out, um, signs of stress. It mentions irritability, lack of energy, rapid heart rate, decreased concentration, and feeling overwhelmed. So when we're in
interesting.
that stage of stress, we're not gonna be feeling those things. We're
Yeah,
gonna be feeling there's gonna be some work, there's gonna be some effort, but it's like doing a workout.
yeah,
Maybe you're breathing a little bit harder, but you feel good.
yeah.
But when we're pushing ourselves too hard, that's where we start seeing those signs of irritability or that feeling of overwhelm that comes along when we have that unhealthy stress.
Well, and I love how all of this like feeds into each other, right? So it's
Mhm,
like move your body, get sleep. If you don't, your stress increases. And then the next concept is poor diet.
mhm.
It's interesting to me how many of my clients, when they are in some type of distress, anxiety or depression, not only is sleep impacted, diet is impacted.
Yeah.
So for me, my poor diet is I eat too much and I eat crap, right? And then I have clients on the other end of the spectrum that don't eat at all,
Yeah.
right? And so like I'm not nourishing my body with unhealthy food and eating too much, and they're not nourishing their body with a lack of food. And so it's like all of these things are so important to make sure that we're operating optimally. And when we're not operating optimally, our brain is sending signals, and we're seeking out behaviors that like continue that dysregulation, right? We're not
Yeah.
bringing things back in balance. Um,
No, I've
and it
noticed.
says like with diet, don't ever skip a meal, and focus on establishing a mindset of eating when you're hungry.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed a big difference. I feel like that diet piece I do pretty well on most of the time. We try to eat, a lot of fresh foods, a lot of fruits and vegetables, and cook a lot of meals at home. And I feel really good most of the time in that regard. And then there are those days where I'm running behind or I'm stressed, and so I'm overeating or eating the wrong things, and I feel it. I feel it, like, even just in my stomach, that my body has to work that much harder to break down, like a Wendy's combo meal versus, like an egg sandwich that I made at home or something like
Hey, don't dog the Wendy's run, bro.
that. It's so good. It's so delicious. But I feel the difference. So, being really mindful about what you're eating and how much you're eating, or if you have that tendency to not eat, to skip meals, uh, you know, it is interesting. All of these do have kind of a cascading effect. One can
Mhm.
lead to the other and really get us in trouble if we're not paying attention.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that I've tried to do, and I encourage my clients, whatever, again, some people are overeaters and eat junk food, and some people are undereaters.
Mhm.
But one thing that I've been trying to do personally is making sure I always take my vitamins, right? And then I added, I I don't know, it's like a serving of vegetables, a serving of fruit capsule.
Mm.
And so it's like I'm trying to add that in there again to help the body reset. I'm like, if my body has what it needs, then our body's a self-healing organism, and so if it has what it needs, then it's going to be more capable of self-healing and regulating. And so it's yeah, that awareness of where do I struggle and how do I bring in support to help create regulation? Because when these things get dysregulated,
Mhm.
and then it's everything's dysregulated, it's really hard to recenter. So yeah, like focusing on where your diet is poor or your stress is out of whack or your sleep is upset, and then bringing in something to support and enhance the quality of that is a good step that most people can take.
Yeah. Well, in speaking about regulation and dysregulation, I think dysregulation really hits on this next point, which is, drinking too much alcohol, smoking, and using illicit drugs. There's the saying, like, you are what you eat, and taking in those things, those are all they all create very powerful chemical reactions in our body, very intense. And while, a lot of people say mild to moderate drinking probably isn't a big deal, it talks about that in here, where even just that moderate amount of alcohol could be causing quite a bit of damage.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting that the science on that has evolved. That 20 years ago, it was yeah, go ahead and have that glass of wine every night. That's going to help your brain. And now the science is saying actually like any amount of alcohol or drugs can have a negative impact
Mhm.
on your brain and body health. Too much use of alcohol and drugs and smoking actually leads to premature death in many instances.
Mhm.
What's really interesting is I've noticed a lot of my clients right now are relying on drugs to get through. Like I have clients who are like, I have to do mushrooms before I go to work, or I have to smoke weed to just get through the day. Um, and I've never done drugs, so I don't have, you know, I don't have anything to fall back on as far as experience, as far as why that would make a difference. But part of me wonders if people are using that as a tool and a resource because it does alter the state of mind and calm things down, but it's an indication that the other foundational things like food and drink and diet are out of whack.
Yeah. No, it's a form of self-medicating, but it's not tracked, it's not prescribed, and so it can very easily start causing other problems. Maybe that drug gives, or that, alcohol or whatever it is, gives you some false calm or some false confidence. But, focusing on some of those other things that we've talked about on diet and exercise and sleep, that's all within your body. It's all still within control of
Yeah,
your internal systems. It's not from
yeah,
an external source.
interesting. So the last concept that's talked about was an interesting one to me that I for sure have overlooked.
Mhm.
And it's um, not taking the easy safety precautions to protect our body. So it gives examples of like avoid loud noises, including, you know, noises from our earbuds. This is what I'm really bad at, wearing a helmet when riding a bike. Like if I'm just going out on a little bike ride with the kids around the neighborhood, like I rarely put on a helmet because it's like, oh, we're just going to be so close to the house. What could happen?
Yeah.
Um, or yeah, like don't drink and drive, stay hydrated when it's hot outside, be careful climbing ladders, don't use your smartphone while driving or walking. I do that as well. And I'm always wear my seatbelt, but things like that.
Mhm.
And it just kind of talks about like especially your head. Like if you hit your head and you get a brain injury, then your body's ability to regulate and self-heal is impacted. And so like protect that organ because it
Yeah.
serves such an important purpose in how our body operates. What is that something that you would have guessed is like worst habits is not taking safety precautions?
It was one that I had not like actually thought about really. Like they're all a lot of them are, kind of they make sense, wear a seatbelt, stay hydrated when it's hot outside. But they're things I guess normally I would take like I wouldn't consider, I wouldn't think about. And so I would just be going on throughout my day and not consider it, not do anything about it. Or at least not intentionally doing anything about it. I am usually one to grab my helmet when I'm riding my bike. But that's because I biked a lot as a kid. Like that was
All
something I
right.
did as a teenager all the time. So it's just a habit for me now. But one that I was thinking about was, like putting on sunscreen. I'm terrible at that one. And I've had some pretty bad sunburns because I'm forgetful of that one. And like
Hmm.
even simple things like just, going on a hike or, going to the park, it can be a really good idea to put it on just for, that sort of exposure, not just like going to the beach and stuff like that. But I forget about it all the time.
Yeah, I never used to sunburn easily as a child. So as an adult, prioritizing sunscreen is really, really hard for me. And I have kids that are like have a fair complexion and need the sunscreen. So I still have never had a really bad sunburn because I just don't burn easily. But yeah, like that was really interesting. Um, what I'm thinking about now is how important it is to go through all of these topics and again apply it to you and your family. Um, you were talking about sunscreen, like wearing sunscreen, going on a hike. It reminded me of a hike my family went on a couple months ago, and our son was diagnosed with diabetes in January. And typically he just has a backpack all the time that has, you know, extra insulin and diabetes supplies. And he always has like snacks and glucose tab. Like he has all the things he
Mhm.
needs to stay alive. Because if his blood sugar drops when we're out, like it is catastrophic.
Yeah.
And so I was working and my husband was getting everything ready for the hike. And so when I got done with work, like I jumped in the car and we left and I didn't think about taking those precautions. And all of a sudden we're like, I don't know, 45 minutes, an hour away from the car. And my son's monitor went off like beep, 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 low blood sugar. And we didn't have anything. We had his emergency glucose, which was fine. Like but we didn't have any food. We didn't have any of those glucose tabs. And thankfully he had the emergency backup. So we were able to like use small doses of that and get through the hike. Um, but it's interesting how taking these precautions we do overlook and we do take for
Yeah.
granted because typically the results aren't catastrophic until they are,
Yeah.
right? Like we can take sleep for granted until all of a sudden something else gets out of whack and our mental health is destroyed or our physical health is destroyed. And so yeah, taking that time to go through and like you said, like sunscreen for you, um, wearing a bike helmet for me, and just prioritizing, like really looking closely at your like what are the things that I'm not that said easy safety precautions. What are those easy safety precautions I'm not taking in these areas that can protect and enhance my life?
Yeah. Well, good. Well, I think those are all the main points that we wanted to hit. So I just wanted to remind you to like and subscribe, comment down below which ones stood out to you guys, something that you took away that you want to improve. But Carolyn, what stood out to you? Where's an area
Oh
that you
gosh.
feel like you
Um,
want to put some effort into?
I think I want to focus on the sleep hygiene.
Mm,
And where I know that sleep is important to me, and I know that that was not a pattern or habit that I had before of snuggling up with my phone. Again, it doesn't keep me awake longer. I still just pass out, but yeah, I want to experiment that if I had a little bit better sleep hygiene routine, if that would enhance the quality of my sleep.
Yeah. That's one that stood out to me too. That's actually my New Year's resolution is
Hmm,
working on my sleep.
there you go. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you should do a little one hard thing a day video on what your sleep hygiene is going to be.
That'll be a good one. I'll have to do that.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for checking in, guys. Like and subscribe and look for more videos.